So Doom Patrollers, in Doom Patrol Season 1, we had an amazing villain in Alan Tudyk's Mr. Nobody. I think we can all agree with that, but what about Season 2? Who's going to be the main villain? I mean, what other villains could we even see pop up in Season 2? And who do I want to see be the main villain, and what villains do I even want? Well, that is exactly what we're getting down to in today's Doom Patrol video. How's it going, Doom Patrollers? Welcome to a brand new Doom Patrol video. I've been saying I was going to be doing this video for quite a while in my biggest questions video. Check that out in the cards above. I think I say that in the video coming ahead as well, so you'll be reminded of that. But anyway, let's get on with this. This is about what villains I think will be most likely coming to Season 2, who I really want to see, and who I think they should definitely do, but who could be the main villain at the same time, especially after setting such a high bar with Alan Tudyk's Mr. Nobody. So if you've been looking for that kind of discussion video, going into a bit more detail about who we could see, especially with Dorothy Spinner and maybe Candlemaker coming and whatnot, this is the video for you guys. So go ahead and leave a like on it if you do go on to enjoy it. But other than that, enjoy the video. So Doom Patrol Season 1 was an amazing first season for an incredible show which has quickly advanced to a lot of comic book fans' list for favorite shows out there, myself included of course. Now one of the greatest things about the show, aside from the Doom Patrol themselves of course, was the main villain, Mr. Nobody, played by Alan Tudyk. So when it comes to Season 2, who might the Doom Patrol face off against, since Mr. Nobody is trapped in that blank painting alongside the Beard Hunter? I briefly went over some villains we could see in my biggest questions coming out of Doom Patrol Season 1, which has two parts to it, so I'll leave those videos in the cards above if you haven't seen them already, but let's discuss in quite a bit more detail compared to that video who I think may very well be coming next season. So at the moment, I'll say right off the bat, it's impossible to tell for sure who's going to be the main villain for Season 2. Like, I can't guarantee it, but I do know for sure who I would like to see without a doubt, and who I also think has a very good chance at being in Season 2 anyway, which was set up numerous times throughout the various mentions in Season 1, and that's the members of the Brotherhood of Evil, and even the main man himself, or Brain himself should I say, Ultimax. You may remember references we actually got to him in episode 6, titled Doom Patrol, where Rita was talking to Mento in that trophy room, which was all very clean and pristine, but by the end of the episode we came to see that the trophy room wasn't so clean looking, and now some fans have said that the trophies weren't there anymore because of that, but they definitely were, and they definitely are even. So maybe not every single trophy as depicted in the Delusion of Mentos is there, but you can clearly see that the Brains case is still there in present day 2019, after many years passing since the original Doom Patrol fought against the Brotherhood of Evil. So what we can gather out of this is that the Brain, or Ultimax if you will, did fight the original Doom Patrol alongside the other members of the Brotherhood of Evil, presumably, and it was real and not just a figment of Mentos' delusion. The Doom Patrol fought the Brotherhood of Evil at some time, but ultimately Ultimax escaped and has been out there likely licking his wounds, so to speak, and coming up with new diabolical plans, likely alongside Monsieur Marla, who was also hinted at by Mr. Nobody after being kicked out of the Brotherhood of Evil, and since then has likely developed a new case as well for his brain to sit in. The Brotherhood of Evil has been likely quiet since the battle with the original Doom Patrol, because we haven't really heard any other references about them in Season 1, other than when the original Doom Patrol fought them in their youth. So it would make sense, after biding their time for quite a few decades now, considering the original Doom Patrol look, quite old, that with Ultimax's genius level intellect, he has come up with a plan to strike in Season 2, alongside other members such as Monsieur Marla, who I've already mentioned, who is a gorilla with a fondness for weaponry, and I can imagine with Doom Patrol's budget, by the way, they can afford to show him quite a few times, maybe even more so than the CW with Gorilla Grodd, for example. So personally, seeing a CGI gorilla holding a brain will just be amazing, with a gun at the same time, just going crazy. Just imagine that Robot Man reaction right now. Yes, you know exactly the one I want to say, but because of demonetization, I likely can't. But there is also a variety of other villains too, such as Gemini, General Mortis, Plasmus, Warp, Trinity, Phobia, Goldilocks, Madame Rouge, Garguax, and a couple of others. However, I don't think we're going to see every single member of the Brotherhood of Evil if season 2 was to do them. For example, a character like Gargax, who is an alien who comes to Earth and eventually joins the Brotherhood. I mean, you never know, but if they were doing the Brotherhood, I think it would just be a small handful of core characters, like obviously Ultimax, but also Monsieur Marla, possibly Madame Rouge, and perhaps they won't even do the Brotherhood in full swing anyway as the big bads behind the season-long arc. But if we do get them as the main overarching evil of the season, it could be done by initially sending out a couple of villains from the Brotherhood sent in on behalf of the Brain. So this could first happen in one episode similar to the Decreator and then the following Recreator episode, with those episodes focusing on the other Brotherhood members rather than the leader Ultimax himself. This way fans of the material may perhaps know what, could be coming, but for example, they could send in General Immortus, who is a man, as the name infers, who has lived for centuries, and also some fans believe Chief's project to extend his life is named after, since it was called the Immortus Project after all. Also, since it's not entirely explained how the Chief has lived over 100 years, like to a T, perhaps Chief did somehow manage to get one of the potions from General Immortus. But I digress. They could also send in Madame Rouge, as I've already mentioned, and then maybe even a couple of others alongside them to pave the season before reaching the Brain and, Ultimax himself, and potentially Monsieur Marla to be the big cheeses who are in the final few episodes. Now, some fans are thinking that the season 2's villain could be Candlemaker, who, as some of you may know, is linked to Dorothy Spinner in the comics, which in the Doom Patrol show's iteration is now the Chief's daughter, as we all found out in the finale. But they could even do a twist where people think that because of that he could be the overarching villain of the season, but no, it's still the Brotherhood behind him too. This is where near the finale-ish we could have the Brain come in with, as I've already said, possibly Monsieur Marla, and perhaps even other members of the Brotherhood of Evil as one big, seemingly unstoppable force for the Doom Patrol to face up against in those final episodes. But as I said, this is all just my imagination and kind of fanboy wants. I think regardless, I mean, at least I'm hoping they will be prominently featured or maybe just appear as a one-off little fan service episode, or at least at the bare minimum, like the complete minimum, there will be a lot more references. Now, I have to talk about the Brotherhood of Dada in this video. Is it Dada or Dada? Excuse my, pronunciation of that. But there isn't really like all that much to say because it strictly has to do with Mr. Nobody if you already know a little bit about this. Now, the Doom Patrol's painting that trapped Danny the Street was definitely a nod to the painting that ate Paris, which did just that, but in the show it ate Danny the Street. So at the end of that storyline, it trapped Mr. Nobody in the comics, but the Brotherhood of Dada, who are like-minded people and followers of Mr. Nobody, helped him escape. Now, for all we know, Mr. Nobody could have, in theory, over the many, many decades he has had his powers already, he could have recruited some people, yet there was no mention of them in season 1, but as always, guys, this could easily be written in. That's the magic of these brilliant writers we have for this show. But I get back to my main point. If there is a Brotherhood of Dada or Dada, I'm sorry, they could help Mr. Nobody escape with the Beard Hunter from the blank painting, but then I have to say this. Why wouldn't Mr. Nobody be just as threatening as he was in season 1? Like, why would he automatically not just be the main villain again? It's for these reasons I don't necessarily believe we would see the Brotherhood of Dada or Dada in season 2. At the same time, guys, this is Doom Patrol, so it's definitely within the realms of possibility. Maybe we're going to get introduced to them, but they're not successful in getting the painting, or maybe they do get Mr. Nobody out, but his powers are hindered and he's not the same, referencing to how he was just left a former husk of himself after he got trapped in Danny the Street's painting and he couldn't get out. But it ultimately feels unlikely to me, but you'd have to think that Mr. Nobody and Beard Hunter will get out somehow. We know that the show doesn't copy and paste from the comics, rather it adapts these stories in their own version. So who knows what could be in store for the show's iteration versus the Brotherhood of Dada in the comics. I personally would be completely down for a maybe hybrid season of other villains, but maybe with Mr. Nobody coming back as well. This isn't unusual for shows either. I mean, like, there's plenty of villains spanning a couple of seasons, with the most recent one that comes to my mind straight away being Tobias Whale in the CW's Black Lightning. But let's go back to the Candlemaker for a second. They could definitely make him the prominent villain of the season, who is behind the scenes of Dorothy as in the comics, and maybe we see scenes of this littered throughout the episodes, possibly alongside other villains as I've already mentioned, such as the Brotherhood, in a potential mashup season. However, which, should be expected, it would definitely be somewhat different than the comic book material, as Doom Patrol have already made it so with Dorothy Spinner being the Chief's daughter. So in the comics, just in case you're not familiar, Candlemaker wants to escape back into the physical realm, having been removed from it a long ass time ago, but has to do so through Dorothy Spinner, as he is like this thought-esque being who can enter the minds of people and grant wishes. He is basically locked within Dorothy, and if he grants her 3 wishes, he can be set free. So the show could go about doing this in a number of ways, with perhaps different wishes being fulfilled through Dorothy because of things potentially happening to the Doom Patrol, and Chief is wondering how she could do this as it doesn't seem to be naturally a part of her skill set. So for example, if she were to resurrect a Doom Patrol member, we as the audience may possibly know that it's Candlemaker's doing, per granting the wish of Dorothy, but to the Doom Patrol, they might just think it's one of her really talented gifts. So even though there isn't a boatload of material for the Candlemaker, this iteration of Doom Patrol could still use the core character and breathe a lot more life into him. They actually did this with Mr. Nobody. So as much as Mr. Nobody has been in the comics, the show gave him a lot more to play with, both narratively speaking and ability-wise too. I mean, they did a fantastic job of it. So when talking about potential main villains in this video, it really is just a matter of conceptualizing what Doom Patrol Season 2 could possibly do, not laying out exactly what will happen, because the way they're bringing Doom Patrol to life from the comics is a very new and innovative, yet also comic book accurate at the same time, adaptation, making it kind of hard to nail down what they could go about doing to a T. Now, of course, I think we will see the Bureau of Normalcy again. This is probably even one of the villainous groups I could almost guarantee being in the second season. As many of you may know, the Bureau of Normalcy is based on the Men from Nowhere in the comics, led by Darren Jones, just like how it is in the show, and they've done an excellent job of breathing life into that story as well. There is also a lot of potential with the Bureau of Normalcy, as it's very woven into multiple members of the Doom Patrol's past. However, I'm not sure I would want them to be the main villains though. I feel like the Bureau of Normalcy fit better weaved throughout every other episode or so in a Doom Patrol season, opening many doors and factors into various plots the show is already doing, whether that's through character development for the Doom Patrol, such as Larry, who has suffered at their hands, or others who ran into them somehow, or maybe even introducing people who are mistreated by them, but introduced in episodes linked to other stories such as Flex Mentallo. But I had to chuck this one in here because this could be an actual thing. The return of Animal, Vegetable, Mineral Man. And yes, you definitely heard me right. For those of you who may not know, he is an actual villain of the Doom Patrol in the comics, even though we've only seen him scattered throughout Season 1 for the more memey purposes, I'd say. After getting transformed from Von Fuchs' chamber, I would 100% be down, and I feel like I can speak on behalf of a lot of Doom Patrol fans when I say this, that we would be more than happy to see a whole episode dedicated to him, as I've mentioned before in a similar episode to that of the D Creator, where it's not fully fledged main plot centric of an episode. Even if they wanted to weave Animal, Vegetable, Mineral Man into a bigger story, for example, if the Brotherhood of Evil were to be the bigger villains of the season, they could use him as a fresh-faced recruit eager to join to cause some trouble. And this could also be the Brotherhood of Evil's way of testing out what they're up against with the Doom Patrol. I think this would honestly be hilarious and funny if finally him and his dinosaur head got along for an episode, or not at the same time, but we're pulling off something quite problematic to the point where the Doom Patrol just had to get involved. So Doom Patrollers, let me know who you want to see be the main villain for Doom Patrol Season 2 out of all of those villains, or maybe I may have forgot to mention somebody in particular that you wanted to see. I don't think I did, but maybe I did. But who else would you want to see, even just for the minor kind of people that they might run into? Like, you know how the Beard Hunter was originally introduced before he found peace on Danny the Street and got off the beard, that kind of thing maybe. But also, do you want to see Animal, Vegetable, Mineral Man? That's the real question here. Have his own episode. I think the Doom Patrol writers definitely need to do that. I know it's quite a bit of CG, but like, please do it, please. But other than that, everyone, really hope you enjoyed the video. Like it if you did. It really does show your support for the channel and helps the video out tremendously. Check out my links in the description down below to Twitter and Facebook. You can support me further on Patreon. Join my Discord server to talk about Doom Patrol with me more. But that is everything. So thank you so much for watching. Hope you guys have a lovely rest of your day. And I'll see you Doom Patrollers in the next video. Goodbye.